Hi, this is a quick video on how to add a API new data point to the Vedastro API. So right now I'm on the vedastro.org website, and if you go to the API builder, now the API builder is a powerful API that you can use to get astronomical data. And That's now what I mean is now when you open the calculators, there's a lot of calculators, and if you come in here and you click on this, you scroll a bit down, you see that there's over 240 calculators. But let's say you want to add something new, right? So how do you go about it? So right up here we have a little button that you can click, and you can say, you can describe the call that you want to add. For instance, I would like to add the call Avasta because we don't have that right now. This is just sends a feedback to us so that we can do it. But let's say you're adventurous enough to code this yourself, and it's not that difficult. That's the beautiful part. The code is open source, and it's not that difficult. So I'm going to show you how to do that exactly. How you can add a new data point to this Vedastro API calculator, and you can use it and share it with everybody else as well. And yeah, it's really easy. And let's get started. So the first thing I gotta do is clone the repo. So first of all, let's make sure what I want to add. And to know what I want to add, I'm going to go into the API developer workroom, and that's where I can see the tasks that need to be done, right? So I'm going to click on, I'm going to type the Avesta. So this is the current task that somebody suggested, and we would like to implement it. So right now I would like to do this one right there. So this is one of the data points. So what we gotta do is Lajjita Avasta. So I hope I'm pronouncing it that right. So this Avasta has to be calculated, right? And here's some description on how to do calculations and all that, right? So there's some original code, and we're just gonna do one. So we're gonna give a planet, and let's say right now this one. So it's really simple. So let's start from. So in this video, basically, you're going to see how from description we go to a working feature, right? So this is literally an issue right now. I mean, an issue meaning a task to do on the Vedastro repo, and we're going to convert it to an actual feature that's already completed. So hopefully by the end of this video, we can tick this thing completed. Well, it's not yet done, so let's give it a go. So first thing you gotta do is head over to the repo, right? And clone it. Yeah. Once you clone the repo, so there's a lot of ways to clone it. You can open Visual Studio now. So I'm going to use Visual Studio, obviously. It's developed in Visual Studio, so I'll recommend you use it as well in Visual Studio. So I'm going to open the Visual Studio. Sorry, I already have it cloned. So I'm going to open it in Visual Studio. I'm in it right now. So once I'm in Visual Studio and I'm updated to the latest repo, so I'm going to open the Solution Explorer. Alright, so the first thing I usually like to do is I like to minimize everything, collapse all, that's right up here. And once I've done that, I'm just gonna scroll to the library. Now, the first place you might want to go is the API project, right? So, but actually, no, the API project is just a wrapper, right? The code that we're looking for is actually in the library. Remember, even though what we're trying to do, we're trying to add a new calculator to the open API. When we go into the project, what we gotta, I mean, there's something to remember. We don't go into the API folder, we go into the library folder, all right? So we go in library folder, look for the folder managers, okay? And then calculate, and then go for the first one. Okay, so basically all this is just the same class called calculate. It's just been split out to smaller versions so that it's easier to manage, right? So I'm going to open the main one, the first calculate. So this is the main code that's used for the API and the Python library as well. All right. So I'm going to scroll. So let's just make it a convention that we always add the latest code at the top so it's easy to find, because the code file is huge, and you know, by the time we get through the whole thing. So what I like to do is always put the latest function at the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is um, is is to paste the function name. All right, so let's get started something with something simple. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. So remember what the task was, that we're supposed to make the calculations for this avasta, the Lajjita Avasta, right? So plants in a house, so we got to make sure these calculations to be made. Okay, so we head over to the code, and okay, so we just, what we want to do is we want to name it, right, we want to name it like as though we're asking a question from the API, right? So it's, so you try to as you name, what I'm trying to say is that as you name the method that you're going to use, it, the name that's going to pop up here, make sure the name has some sense and logic to it, right? So for instance, if I put in um, residential strength and I press generate, you know, if you watch the URL, look at that. So it says calculate residential strength. So there is a sense of grammatical correctness to it, right? So in that sense, I guess. So what I'm trying to say is you try to put it as calculate is planet in a certain data point, like as though the API is asking a question or giving a data of a result. So I'm going to name this. So I mean, it's up to you, and you can be creative as well, right? So I'm going to name this is planet in Lajjita Avasta. So it's a question, right? So you put in a planet, and it's going to give in a yes or no. So we're only going to do one. There's a lot of avastas that we have to get to. Let's see, but yeah, there's like 6 of them, but let's just do one right now, right? So once I've got that done, the next step would be to define what I want to do in code. So what I always like to do is I like to put a comment there trying to describe what I want to do. And well, I already have it up here. I just noticed that, so I guess I don't need it down here. So I'm going to remove that. So let's just look at the comment and see what is the target logic that we're trying to achieve. So planet in the fifth house in conjunction with Rahu or Ketu. So there's 2 points that we have to satisfy here, all right? So the first thing that we have to check for if the planet is in conjunction. If the included planet, the planet that comes in here, is in the fifth house, right? So the way we do that is by writing this line of code right there. So each planet in fifth house is just variable name, and then I'm asking a calculate method is planet in any house. Is planet in house. So I'm putting in the variable from time, the planet name that I'm putting in, and the house 5, right? So I specified the house 5 directly. So the next thing I've got to check is um, the if Rahu or Ketu or Saturn or Mars is also in the fifth house, or in other words, in conjunction, right? So the way we can go about doing that is write a code that looks something like this, right? So the way this works is check if any planets, so planet names. So I'm just going to make a list of names of planets. So it's Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, and Mars, and then I'm going to check each planet in any house. So um, the first obvious question is, I mean, how do I even know any of these methods? So the answer is quite simple. I mean, like for instance, if I want to know if a planet's in a house, so if I want to know a calculator that has, so I just type there planet. So I know I need something with planet, and I know I need something with house, right? So I just type in planet house, and and I just sort of, as you can see, the intelligence finds all the methods that I have available for me, and I just look through it. Now it's planet in any house. That this is the method I'm looking for, and if I sort of look at the comment section, I mean all the code as much as we can is commented. And if you look at the comment section, it says check if any planets, in a given in any of a given house at a specified time. So this is the method that we want, right? So I'm going to click on that, right? So just a quick note here: if you're on Python, right, you're going to have the word method calculate. And it's the same thing. I mean, right now we are already inside the calculate method, so I'm not going to put in the word calculate. But technically speaking, you can also write it this way. So this is how it would look in Python, for instance. So you have the word calculate, and then you have the word. So you can also always click calculate, and then you choose zodiac sign, and it'll show me all the methods for zodiac sign. I mean, it's just a quick example of what you can do and what is possible. So right now, let's get back to the point. So right now we got 2 points that we are checking for to validate whether this is value is going to be returned as a true bool or a false. So the last line of code that we're going to write for this method is going to look something like that. Yeah, there we go. So check if all conditions are met for Lajjita Avasta we met. So is planet in house 5th, and is Rahu Ketu in Mars or in either of the planets. So remember, it's in any planet. There's also another special method that also has the word in all planet. Now, in all planet means every planet has to be in Rahu, Ketu, or Saturn or Mars. But in this case, remember, right here, that's why it's always important to have the comment section, the comments of what you're trying to achieve, also in the same place as you code the method that you're trying to code. Because the logic can get very complicated with Vedic astrology, and it's important to keep the logic right, because once it's coded wrongly, it's very rare that someone comes in here and corrects it, right? So you got to make sure you get it right the first time. Okay, so once that is done, we're basically done. That's it. I mean, this calculation works. Let's just give it a go. So before I go, I mean, let me just explain what this little guy here, right here, you know what this is, right? It's a comments. This is the signature of the method. Now, what is this? This is an attribute of what data appears right here. Like if I come in here to the calculations and the browse calls, I have descriptions and all that. So the data that comes in here is what it's written here. So I'm going to just take the data that I'm seeing here, because these are comments, and I'm going to put it into the attribute, right? So and then the astronomical, this is not really important. I mean, you can leave it out. This is not needed. If necessary, you can look into it. You can add a tag to it so that we can identify and catch and sort of catch the functions better. Okay, so now that that's done, that's it. So all you gotta do is commit the code. So I'm gonna if you click this button right here that clicks, and you can get the git committed changes, and I'm just gonna commit the change, and I'm gonna say is planet Avesta added in. So that's a comment right there. I'm gonna come in here, and I'm gonna say that we just slightly describe it, added, newly added, yeah, that's asterisk sign there, and commit all. And I mean, if you're doing this on your side, you're doing the same thing. You're committing it, and then you're pushing the repo, or in your case, you're pushing it, and then you're making a pull request to the main repo so that you can share it with everybody else. Okay, so that's it. So I've pushed the repo online, and it should be live soon. But before I forget, I'm sure as you're making the function, you wanna run the code locally before you make a push request. I mean, you want to know whether the code works, right? So if you want to test this function as an API locally, all you got to do is just run the API. And yeah, let's give it a moment. Okay, now that the local API server is running, I'm just going to minimize that. Now I'm going to do something funny. So I'm going to go into the back into the live API website. Now remember, this website doesn't have the method that I just created locally. This is a live website, right? So I haven't published it yet. Hasn't been uploaded yet. So but anyway, come in here because we need to build the API URL. We can't access the API. The API is just accessed by URLs. So you come into the API builder. Before that, let's just quickly go into the code and take a look. You notice here, this is the signature of how we're going to call this method. So remember, even though this code is in C sharp, we're actually going to call this method from a URL. That's what this API actually does. It allows you to run C sharp code from a URL access from your browser, basically. So anyway, so the order is important. So yes, your planet name and then time. Okay, so another method that already has the same signature, that way we just change the name, is all planet data, right? Look at the signature is exactly the same, only the name is different. So I'm going to head back over to the API builder. So I'm going to choose all planet data because it's the same signature. I'm going to just click on a planet, generate, give it a minute. I'm gonna copy the call. Open a new tab. Let's put it in. Now, of course, look at the URL. It's going to the live API. Obviously not. We want to go hit the local API, which we can do by coming into our little server window here, and we click and you just copy that, and then we come in here and then we paste that in, right? And remember, make sure you get the URLs correct. Okay, there's a little double URL here. Make sure you move that. And remember, I'm adding the API, not uh, just the host. There's a little /.api. Remember that. Where else in the live domain is just vedic.org. Okay. Anyway, once you're in here, remember this is gonna call the already method that we have, but let's change this. So somewhere here I have the code that I need. There we go. Yeah, so this is the one. So this name right here, remember I got this from here. So this is the name, the exact name of the method in the CS code that you will access via API from URL in here. So look at that. It's the calculate, the name of the class, and then the name of the method. So right now, remember what we do is just a quick recap here. We have already added the API. Right now, we're testing it locally. All right, so we got planet name, moon, and all that. So the order has to be right. That's what it's important that you use the generator to get the URL instead of trying to type it out yourself because you might miss something. All right, that's why they use the builder. Okay, so let's run this. So right now I haven't run it yet. Let's come in here and I press enter. Right, so it's loading. Give it a minute. There we go. So that code just ran. So look at that. So we just added a new API to the Vedic API in what less than 20 lines of code, and we're calculating a new Avasta, and we can access it via a simple URL. And that's just amazing, and it makes it really simple to do all kind of fancy stuff, and shows what is possible. Yeah. So I encourage anybody who's watching who's making their own methods, please add it to the main repo so everybody can use it, and we can grow this system into a big general system that can benefit everybody who's really interested in astrology, um, you know, and use it for good. Yeah, and thanks for watching.